course, the big news with regards to Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore. NASA astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore are set to undock from the International Space Station, marking the end of an extraordinary 9-month journey in space. Their mission, initially planned as a brief 8-day test flight aboard Boeing Starliner spacecraft, was extended due to unforeseen technical issues with their vehicles. Williams is returning aboard SpaceX Dragon spacecraft with Wilmore and 2 other Crew-9 members. The astronauts have been on the ISS since June last year, following the maiden crewed mission of the Boeing Starliner spacecraft, which encountered technical issues and was deemed unfit for their return journey. The Starliner's propulsion problems necessitated an alternative plan, leading to their inclusion in the Crew-9 mission. Joining us at this point of time is my colleague Aditya Vadwan. Aditya, take our viewers to the details, please.
Well, absolutely, probably to see, the SpaceX aircraft had landed at the International Space Station, and all the technicalities, formalities as per the standard operating procedures are being, so far are being done by the NASA, and they are ensuring that this time that there isn't not any technical error that comes in between, because so far, since Sunita Williams has been standing in the space for close to 9 months now, so they're taking all precautions so that any technical glitch does not affect the return of Sunita Williams to Earth, and the Crew-10 successfully replaces them, Sunita Williams and William Barrymore, who was with her in the space. So now it needs to be seen from here on how much more time will the NASA take to launch this SpaceX aircraft, which will bring back the 2 astronauts. It needs to be seen now how much time will it take to bring back Sunita Williams to Earth. Let us just put this into perspective that this time all the safety precautions and avoidance of all the technical glitches are being taken. Yes, Asabri.
Right, absolutely, Aditya. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast, sharing all those details with us. We, in fact, have some special guests joining us at this point of time. Mr. P.K. Ghosh, space strategist, and Group Captain V.N. Jha, former Director DRDO. A very good morning to the two of you. And thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on Newsx. I am going to start this conversation with Group Captain V.N. Jha, sir. Finally, we're looking at happy news. Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore will finally be landing on Earth, but there's going to be a lot of rehabilitation that's going to take place. 9 months in space, now touching down, even as something as simple as walking is going to be a difficult task. What's your perspective, sir?
Very good morning, Savari. Yes, there are bound to be some small glitches here and there, but nothing major. Look, people have already stayed in the space at the International Space Station over 600 days at a stretch. So, there are problems of living in the space. Exposure to space causes 3-4 things immediately. One is that circulation is altered. Circulation of blood is altered. Second one is that the loading from the muscles, anti-gravity muscles, what make us stand, that goes off. So there is a possibility of the muscle wastage in the anti-gravity group. Third is the loading. Since there is no weight, there is no loading onto the bones. So demineralization of the bone, that happens quickly, faster, if precautions are not taken. I'll come to that. Other than this, the living in the space is entirely different ball game. Our circadian rhythm of 24 hours here on the Earth is no longer applicable there. There, every 90 minutes, there is one day and one night, because when the Earth, when the ISS is going around the Earth, there is a 45 minutes period when it is the bright sunlight, and another 45 minutes when the International Space Station is passing behind the Earth. There is a shadow of Earth. In that, it is a night time there. So the day and night happens every 45 minutes or so in that condition. So falling sleep becomes difficult. A long stage of the sleep becomes difficult. There are few compartments specially created for with the lights controlled, dim lights and things like that. Noise reduced, vibrations reduced, so people can sleep up there. So sleep, a bit of isolation from the family. You leave the family on the ground, and then like Sunita and Book, they would have gone for 8 days or 9 days initially planned. Now they are for 9 months. So a bit of helplessness is there, but then they are all seasoned astronauts. They have been there earlier. They are trained for it, and even in this 9 months period, Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore have not been sitting idle. There are hundreds of the experiments lined up for the astronauts to carry on there. So they have been doing all those, putting their hands onto many of the tests, trials, and even spacewalking they would have done. So all those things, they would have been fully occupied and busy. So in the last 1.5 days or so, whatever they have done, Sunita and Book, because they were not planned to be the astronauts on board. What they would have done, they would have given the debrief to the next set of crew, and now they will be coming back. Other than all this, there is one more element of exposure to higher grades of the radiation. Space, there is no atmosphere, so all radiations, solar flare, solar winds, galactic rays, all those things come unhindered. So there is more exposure to the radiations. These are the normal problems. So people do have small problems living in the space. Everything is at a very high cost of replenishments. Oxygen, every breath that they have to take have to be catered for, filled up there. Every breath that they exhale, there's a carbon dioxide, there's a water vapor which has to be removed from the compartment. Like this, water is at premium. Of course, in the International Space Station, much of water is recycled. But I believe the drinking part is mostly done with the water carried from the earth, and some amount of water which becomes essential after the crystallizations and the and vaporizations. Some amount of water is used for the making food, like Maggie, if they wish to make. It's very difficult to make. Everything is made up. So those things are used. Water is at premium. Food is at premium. It's a standard thing. But then all these things have been going on since late 60s. International Space Station has been there, for now almost about 25 years or so. So all this go on, and Sunita and Butch Wilmore, along with Nick Hague and Gorvinov, who had gone in the Crew-9, they are the pilots. They are the astronauts who will be piloting the Starliner. I mean, not Starliner, the crew module back. So they are all scheduled to be there. From the time schedule part of it, your viewers may just know that right now that decoupling would be happening. Till now, the Crew Dragon was coupled, was docked. That undocking, autonomous undocking will be happening. So these two now will be different, segregated, and in the coming minutes, there will be departure burns in which the module in which they are sitting right now, that will be taken out of the 200 meters circle of the ISS. So that is the no-go zone. So it will be moving out from there and will continue flying at the same velocity as ISS, but slightly away for many hours hereafter, while all the checks and everything goes on. Last crucial thing is the clearance from the ground where they are, not ground, from the sea where they are supposed to land, where they are supposed to splash down. Weather there must be absolutely fine. The sea waves must be calm. Wind velocity should be very limited, less than 12 feet per minute or so. So, those are the few criteria which have to be filled. Otherwise, everything is not scheduled. Actually, it takes just about 55 minutes from the time that they deorbit, and come and splash down. It is only about 55 minutes of the ordeal that goes through. But then cushion time is kept for confirmation of the splashdown weather, confirmation that every parameter is happening fine, that there is no leak, everything is fine. And even if something goes wrong with the computer system of the Crew Dragon, there is a cushion period for them to maneuver. So this is how everything is going. Few of the time slots, as I told you just now, that automatic decoupling would be happening. And then at about 10:40 or so, which is already the time, departure burns would have started. There are 3 departure burns scheduled, one at 10:40, another at 11:28 or 11:30, and third at about 12:15. So these 3 departures burns will place the Crew Dragon slightly away from the ISS, and then they will be waiting for the final clearance.
Right.
After they receive the final clearance, then all the next set of procedures will start, which we can talk a little later.
Right, so absolutely requesting you to stay on with us. Meanwhile, with us on the broadcast is Mr. P.K. Ghosh, space strategist. So thank you so much for being rather patient with us. And I'd like to hear your perspective, sir, again. I'm sure it must have been both mentally and physically strenuous for Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore to be in space for as many as 9 months. Of course, they were conducting their experiments, so they were not sitting idle over there. But sir, your perspectives, considering the fact that it must have been really difficult for them to be there for that long.
Yes, good morning, Savri, and let me give my perspective. I've been saying this, that firstly, and I'm familiar with the training which the astronauts go through, not because of personal reasons, but one goes into it a little more deeper. All the astronauts who go to space are mentally and physically prepared for any eventuality. Sunny Williams and Butch are no exceptions. It is an unfortunate thing that the Boeing Starliner came back because it was not considered very safe to bring them back. 5 of the thrusters didn't function, out of which 1 finally didn't function at all. 4 did, and there was a lot of verbal fights in the NASA because of this, and the Boeing didn't want to take any help from SpaceX because they are competitors, and there was a lot of competition and underlying animosity between them. Finally, of course, it was decided that SpaceX would get them back along with the crew. Now, this happened long time back. In the sense, a long time back means last year. Now, there has been a lot of media hype about Sunny Williams, mainly Sunny Williams. People, in fact, don't even mention Butch too much, even though he is equally there. But let me categorically mention that there was no cause of alarm at any point of time. That is why now, when Elon Musk has been saying to the media that, look, I gave a proposal to get back both these astronauts who were sort of abandoned by the previous administration, I gave a proposal to get them back immediately. The NASA said, to whom did you give it? He said, I gave it to White House. So why White House? White House is not dealing with this. And then it has become a political slugfest. So the point is, as far as I'm concerned as a space strategist, that there was no cause for alarm. There were enough supplies. At times there were 4 or 5 supply ships which were going over there supplying. So it is not the question of any supply. But yes, it is true that one does feel bad if 9 days stretch to 9 months. Now, regarding the medical aspects, all astronauts undergo a certain degree of medical degradation. The primary one is, of course, as was mentioned by Group Captain Jha also, is the radiation aspects. An astronaut receives to the tune of 1,000 to 1,400 X-rays, just to put it in perspective. And there are three types of radiation which they undergo. I'm not going into details. And every part of the body undergoes a certain degree of degradation. Every part, be it the kidneys, stones can form, be it the heart, the circulation is less tenuous, and hence the muscles become weaker, the own muscles become weaker. And one of the other aspects is, of course, one of the positive aspects, if anybody is wishing to go become more taller, they become a slightly more taller in space. So if you want to become more taller, you can go to space. The unfortunate bit is that when they come back, you get back to your same height. They have something known as baby foot. So even learning to walk is a bit of a exercise, because the soles of your become like babies. They become very soft.
Right.
So all this happens, but when they come back, including the DNA which sort of gets affected, 95% of all the medical aspects get rectified, but not 100%. And mind you, all the astronauts are aware of this. And these people have not spent an enormous amount of time.
Right.
There has been, other record-breaking, like Valery Polyakov, who spent 437 days at a stretch in the space, and so many others,
Yes.
including NASA astronauts. So when they come back, they will be undergoing a detailed medical examination. As it is, from NASA, I'm aware that the doctors were monitoring each aspect closely, and then depending on how much they are they require a daycare, they'll be put in some daycare, and then I think things will be back to normal. So may I also just take off from where Group Captain Jha left? Once the decoupling he's given a detailed perspective. The descent down, there is a stage in which, due to the friction with the atmosphere, the Crew Dragon, the temperature in the Crew Dragon, outside especially, goes up to about 2000 degrees centigrade or 3500 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, and from a speed of, let's say, 22 times the speed of sound, about 17,000 kilometers per hour, it has to be got down to 20 miles per hour. The two parachutes come out, and then they slowly drop onto the ocean. The ships are there, then they are in touch with them. During that time, when the temperature is so high, there may not be any communication with the ground station and the ships around.
Absolutely.
So this is a dicey period, this is a dangerous period, but I'm sure all the checks would have been gone through, as was mentioned earlier. Each and every sensor would have been checked, everything would have been checked, and I'm sure that the splashdown, after the splashdown, of course, then the ships come and then they are taken out, etc. So I'm sure it is going to be a very noteworthy but a very safe landing, because the weather conditions, they have said, they actually preponed the splashdown time.
Right, sir.
NASA preponed the
Absolutely, sir. I'm so sorry. We're completely out of time. I'd like to thank both our guests for joining us on the broadcast, making this technical conversation rather easier for our viewers to also understand. All right. With that being said, Dr. Shauna Pandya is the first named female commercial Canadian astronaut and the fourth Indian origin female astronaut. She will be flying to space with the Virgin Galactic Delta class of spacecraft with the International Institute for Astronomical Sciences as early as 2026. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. And my first question to you is, how difficult would it have been for Sunita Williams to survive in space for 9 whole months?
You know, it sounds like a lot for your average person, but keep in mind that Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore are extremely seasoned astronauts. Sunita is currently spending 600 days and counting in space. Standard ISS missions, or International Space Station missions these days, are commonly upwards of 6 months. And so she's been trained for this. Of course, there's physiological adaptations to think of, but Sunita's a pro.
All right, what are the health challenges now that both astronauts may perhaps feel when they return home?
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to keep in mind the physiological readaptation that comes after spending 9 months in weightlessness. So to give you an idea, if you're not familiar what happens to the human body in space, our bones lose density, our muscles lose mass, our fluids shift upwards. And part of the countermeasures that astronauts employ to get over these physiological adaptations is they're performing a lot of exercise. They're performing up to 2 hours of resistive and aerobic exercise up on the International Space Station 6 days a week. But at the end of the day, that transition from 0 gravity to 1G back on Earth does have some implications. So that fluid, which has previously been upwards, is now shifting back to our feet. So oftentimes you'll see astronauts being carried out of their capsule, and part of it is kind of a warm welcome back to Earth, but most of it is safety. So when the body is undergoing readaptation back on Earth, there's a risk of fainting. There's a risk of all of that blood flow coming back down. And so to keep the astronauts safe from falling and fainting, that's why those safety measures, including carrying the astronauts out, are often undertaken.
Right, how big an inspiration is Sunita Williams for you? What about her journey inspires you the most?
You know, when I look at everything that Sunny Williams has accomplished, her entire track record of excellence, from, being a test pilot to being a helicopter pilot to running the Boston Marathon in space, she keeps achieving new heights. And she is now the current record holder for the woman with the most spacewalk hours in history. And so, by any measure, she keeps setting the bar of excellence even higher. And so just watching that, gives me something to aspire to.
Right, absolutely. Let's also talk about this mission, and let's also try to understand what are the lessons that can be learned from this mission from you.
That is such a great question. When we're talking about lessons that we can learn from this mission, really, both watching Sunny and Butch, they truly embody what I like to call the astronaut mentality. You can't go in with rigid thinking that this mission has to be one way and that is the only way. When we face challenges in spaceflight, it's all about adapting and overcoming. It's about trade-offs and what are the risks, what are the likelihoods, what are the possible solutions, and what best fits our mission objectives. And so just being flexible, being willing to think of multiple ways to solve problems, I think that's really key. And looking at how Butch and Sunny really adapted to integrate into day-to-day ISS operations, helping out with the science, operations, and maintenance. To me, that really is a wonderful lesson and will have implications for both my own journey going forwards as well as future missions that choose to learn from this.
Right. What is your message to young women astronauts after witnessing Sunita's journey?
I think the lesson for burgeoning astronauts who are watching how Sunny Williams handled herself on this mission is just looking at the resilience that she's displayed in facing uncertainty and meeting unexpected outcomes head on, and then just going into it with a positive attitude, being prepared. She's trained for this. She's certainly capable, and doing it with, the best possible attitude, knowing that she has the skill set to turn an 8-day mission into a 9-month mission and do it very, very well.
Well, can you tell us something about your mission with the Virgin Galactic in 2026. How are you preparing for it?
Yeah, so I am very excited to be going to space with Virgin Galactic as early as 2026. There are a lot of considerations. This will be a science and research mission focusing on women's health, medical health technology supporting both astronauts in space as well as healthcare on Earth and neuroscience. And when we talk about our preparation, it really comes down to being able to make decisions in real time based on the science and the results that we're seeing, and being able to both move really well in the zero-G environment and work with our teammates to carry out the science that we're training for.
All right. With that, I'd like to thank you for joining us on Newsx, sharing your perspectives and, of course, giving us an understanding on your plans as well. On that note, we are going to slip into a very short break. Thanks for watching.